Hey there, Blazer fans, and welcome to episode 40 of The Dragon's Den, a podcast for those that bleed green and gold. Today, I have another legend from the softball diamond, and that's Miss Caitlin Attfield. Before we go into the episode, no This Week in Blazer History segment at the end, but I will try to have one for my next episode. Thanks for listening. All right, Blazer fans, I've got my guest here for episode 40 of The Dragon's Den, a former shortstop for the UAB softball team from 2013 to 2016, Miss Caitlin Attfield. Caitlin, how are you doing tonight?
Good, Will. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm very excited to have you on. I know you played a huge part in UAB softball history, and I I actually reached out to your former coach, Marla Townsend, and she was super excited to hear that you were going to be on. So I'm really looking forward to hearing your stories.
I'm looking forward to being on. Thanks for having me.
Just to go ahead and get into it, you're from Niagara Falls, New York, where you attended Niagara Wheatfield High School. I'll go ahead and jump right into one of my social media questions already from John Valekis at JBall2001 on Twitter. He asked one question that I was probably going to ask already. If I remember well, she is from New York. What were the factors on her choosing UAB?
So honestly, like UAB is pretty far away, obviously, right? So it's 15 hours from New York. So nobody really expected me to go super far away, especially my family. But the biggest factor that made me want to go to UAB was honestly like the family atmosphere. So Coach Marla, as soon as I first met her, Coach Holly, Coach Lucy, they really brought me in and they made me feel like I was as their own. And that was the first day I even met them. So that was like a really awesome first like time experience, like meeting them and a first impression. So that kind of drew me to go there for my official visit. And then the fact that Coach Marla even flew up to New York and met my family, came and watched one of my soccer games. And it was freezing cold out. And that just showed a lot that it was just like, it just showed that she cared and that she really wanted me to come to her team. So that was another thing. And then I do remember my mom and my grandma at the time were pretty hesitant on me going to UAB. And my dad was like, oh, go, like, no problem. Like, this will be an awesome experience. But they were a little hesitant. So basically, I told them, I was like, well, come out there. You got to see it. Because this was after my official visit. I already seen it. And they said, or I told them to come to Blazer Bash. So it was a Blazer Bash. And this kind of became our tradition after that Blazer Bash to go every year. But basically what happened is we went up there. We got to hear some of the stories from other former players. We got to actually go take my mom and my grandma around the campus, meet everybody. And from that day, I remember they told me, they looked me in the eye and they said, you can come here. Like, you're good to go. This is an awesome place. You're going to be in good hands. So that right there, I knew like, I'm going to go to UAB.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Your first year at UAB, you stepped in and immediately started all 58 games. You etched your name in the record books in several single season stats. And what was your biggest adjustment from high school ball to college level?
So honestly, high school and college, completely different. The game of like the speed of the game was extremely quick, a lot faster than high school. High school, you're coming off of a season. I came off of a season where I was 7 for 10. So I was hitting 700 and you're coming into college and it's just a completely different game. Like you're going to hit probably like 300, 400 from 700. Like you're failing a lot more than you used to. So I would say the biggest struggle for me was getting used to failing more because I wasn't used to it, but it's a game of failure. And Coach Marla always talked about, you can get knocked to the mat, but it's about how you get back up after you get knocked to the mat. And basically the biggest adjustment for me was the mental game. So taking time, like getting into details of like exactly everything that has to go on with the mental game, mental toughness, positive mindset. Brian Kane was one of the guys that actually, he was our sports psychologist that came in and he spoke to us about like all the different things of the mental game. And that was my biggest adjustment is he helped me out with the mental game. But another thing I would say is I would talk to my dad after a lot of the games and he would just look at me and he would say, you know what, it's okay. Like you're going to fail, like you're going to make mistakes. And I remember I would make errors. I would go 0 for 4, 0 for 3 at times. And it would just kind of like get in my head a little bit. But at the end of the day, I kept thinking, you know what, it's not about me. It's about the team. So like, what's one thing that I can do to help my team win? So it's like, okay, I made 2 errors, but then I made a big play that mattered when we needed it to be done. So those are the biggest things that I kind of adjusted from high school to college, is trying to do things when it matters more so, not necessarily all the time, because you're not going to be perfect.
Okay. Well, your first college games were played in Honolulu, Hawaii, where UAB participated in the Paradise Softball Classic. How was that for your first college games, and how was the trip?
Honolulu, Hawaii, that was a cool, like, awesome first trip as a freshman, like coming in and you get to go to Hawaii for your first trip. Like that's unreal. But honestly, I had dreams about the first game. So we played Washington our first game, and I would literally wake up in the morning and I'd be like, oh, it's just a dream. Like we won, we beat Washington. But literally, like I probably had like 3 dreams of us beating Washington before we actually did it. And that just goes to tell you that mental imagery is huge. Like you see it in your mind first and then it happens. But yeah, no, coming off our first game when we beat Washington, that was one of the best feelings ever. I remember calling my parents and hearing them on the phone, like, oh, your first game, you guys knocked off Washington as a freshman and all of that stuff. But it was just cool. Like the girls on our team were amazing. So like I remember like Kate Armstrong and a lot of those seniors that year, just they had home runs, they had big hits. So a lot of that kind of like went to play. But just the entire experience being in Hawaii, coming off of like huge wins, not just against Washington, but Ole Miss, we had like 3 or 4 wins that tournament. So that was just like a really good start to like an awesome year.
Yeah, fast forward to the near the end of the season, UAB got bounced from the Conference USA tournament after a 1-0 loss to Marshall, but you made the NCAA tournament as an at-large with a 37-16 record. Your first game was against a softball blue blood in the UCLA Bruins. Do you remember the feeling around the team going into that first game?
Oh, I remember it like it was yesterday. You just really can't take that feeling away. But yeah, so just the entire experience going into that series, we came off of a loss with Marshall, but it's not necessarily about the loss from before. It's about that next game that you're playing. And our saying all the time was UCLA who, or UCL who. It wasn't UCLA, right? Because you got like our Coach Marlowe would say all the time, it's not about the name on the front of the jersey. It's about how we go out and play. So I think that was what our huge motto was going into the weekend was, we can beat anyone. It doesn't matter where we are. But we just got to play our game and we got to focus on our our game process goals. So I just remember we went in the locker room and Coach Marlowe didn't have to give us a huge speech. We did our thing. Whitney would turn on the music. Everybody started dancing, keep like the relaxed mood. But that was just how we played good. We were relaxed. We didn't put that pressure on each other. We went and had fun, and we knew we would fight for each other for every pitch.
Well, UAB defeated UCLA and then host Louisville and had a rematch with UCLA. UAB lost, but with the double elimination, faced off against the Bruins one more time later that day. The game went to extra innings, and UCLA took the lead in the top of the 11th. You stepped up to the plate in the bottom of the 11th, and you helped deliver once again. What do you remember the most from those at-bats in the extra innings?
I'll get to the at-bats in a second. I would say the biggest thing that I remember is, like I said, like going into the game, we all had that idea of like, we can beat anyone we go out to, but it was honestly like back and forth. Like we just got to knock to the mat. So like Coach Marla came in there. She said, you guys that got knocked to the mat. But it's about how you get back up. And we got knocked to the mat earlier in the season too. So like we played Houston, we only had to win 1 game, lost 2 of the first games. And, we like to make it interesting, and we ended up winning that 3rd game. But it's just about being resilient, relentless. That was one of our core covenants as well. So when we went into that last game, the feeling going into it was, you just give it your all and whatever happens, happens. And we would be up 1, then they would come back, tie it 1-1. Then they would go up 1, then we came back and tied it. And it was just like back and forth, just both teams being relentless. So it's like, what team's going to give in first? And the entire game, I kept thinking to myself, don't give in, don't give in. Whatever happens, you just got to give it your all. And by the end of the game, we're going to get what we deserve, whether it's a win or a loss. But in my at-bats, I would say just to stay calm and just to fight pitches. So I'm pretty sure I walked on that at-bat in the last inning. I don't really remember all the at-bats just because it's been so long, but I do remember like that feeling of going up and fighting pitches, trying to get on base any way I could. But honestly, the biggest thing that I remember is Whitney Fletcher. That's what I remember is her going 0 for 6, coming up that last at bat and coming through with a triple down the line. Pearson coming around the bases. As soon as we saw that ball hit off the bat, like we all literally knew the game was over. We went out there and dogpiled. And that's funny, like, because Whitney went 0 for 6 that game, but it's like, again, that idea of, you're gonna get knocked to the mat, but you just got to get back up. So that's what a lot of that whole entire weekend was, is getting knocked to the mat and coming back up.
Well, yeah, you mentioned it. Whitney hit that huge walk-off triple in the 13th. What was that celebration like?
I mean, honestly, like, I remember Coach Nick, he looked at all of us after that, and when we were celebrating, and I think we were going to the gas station to get gas and drive back to Birmingham, and we all got off the bus, and Coach Nick said, and remember this, because this feeling doesn't happen often. He said, take this in right now, because this is a once in a lifetime, not necessarily a once in a lifetime thing, but like for a team like UAB, we never made it. That was the first time we've ever made it to a super regional. So we kind of just soaked it in. We enjoyed that bus ride home, but we knew we had to go back to work because we had another tournament.
That's true. UAB went on to the Gainesville Super Regional, but lost to Florida and ending a fantastic season. You were named Conference USA Freshman of the Year, and you were first team All Conference USA. What was it like to be part of a special season as a freshman?
It was unbelievable, honestly. I think the most special part was making it to the Super Regional and doing it with my teammates. The Conference USA stuff, like the Freshman of the Year, like that's cool. That was never really my goal. Like that wasn't my intentions. Like my intentions were to do what I can for my team and just to try to win and be successful. So to have a year like that where, we beat some high ranked teams during the year, went on, beat UCLA twice, not just once. So it's like, those are the types of things that you're going to remember as an athlete and as a softball player going in as a freshman. But I mean, as a freshman, like a lot of people will come in their sophomore year and be like, oh, we did so good, like we're going to do it again. But you just got to keep that mindset, go down, put your head down, go to work, and just keep doing the best you can at all times.
Well, your sophomore season, you had a lot of special moments too. You hit your first career home run versus Iowa. You scored the game-winning run versus Ball State, and UAB beat a few top 25 teams. What are some of the moments that stick out to you from that sophomore season in 2014?
I would say my sophomore season, things that I remember, I would say the Georgia game. So that's one of the main things that sticks out to me is like during the in-season tournament, we went to Georgia and we beat them 8-0 that year. And that was just like another crazy thing. It's like, we're beating a lot of these top ranked teams. So that was one of the best memories that I had from that year. Obviously we went on and got to play them again in a regional and we didn't end up winning. So we lost to Georgia, but the competition just overall was just like, it was unbearable. Like you're playing the top RPI schedule. I think we had like, if not the first or second hardest schedule in the league, our sophomore year. So to go out and have a year like that and, like we didn't get what we wanted and we can come out on top, but those are a lot of the memories that we had. And then I would say another thing, obviously like the home run, I've never hit a home run over the fence. So having that home run, I think I hit a few, I don't remember exactly how many that year, but just goes to show that like a lot of the coaches that we had, like Coach Nick helped me a lot. He helped me a lot with my confidence at the plate. He was kind of like me as a player. So he was quick. He was scrappy. He wasn't really that home run hitter either. So for him to look over to me and always give me that confidence, like, hey, you can hit a home run. You did it in practice. That kind of gave me a lot of confidence as well as a player. So those are the little things that I remember from the season. But overall, just mainly being with my teammates, like they were awesome people to be around. They always brought the mood up and, they were fighters.
Your junior season, you shattered so many records at UAB, and you were also ranked 6th in the nation in batting average. You were named Conference USA Player of the Year, and you were the first UAB player to ever win that honor. I know you mentioned the individual accolades were not as important as the team goals, but what did that mean to you and the team?
So honestly, like, it's not that they don't mean anything. Like, obviously, at the end of the day, you're gonna put a smile on your face. Like,
Yeah.
it means a lot, like, knowing that people look at you as like a good player. But like I said, at the end of the day, like, that wasn't my goal. That wasn't my intention. My intention was to do what I can for the team. But I do remember that. And actually it was actually after a tough part in my junior year. So I had broken my wrist the last conference series in Marshall that year. So it was kind of like a love-hate type of deal. Like, it was cool. Like, I felt like I got that honor and I wasn't even able to play. So it was kind of like, it kind of stunk at the same time because I felt like I was letting my team down. So it's like, yeah, you're conference player of the year, but I feel like I'm letting my team down because now I can't even help them. So basically what my mindset was is, help them any way we can. Help them. If you're going to be the loudest person in the dugout, if you're not on the field, you're going to be the loudest one. So that was my intentions going on after that.
Your senior season, UAB struggled, finishing 27-32. You had another great season. You earned Conference USA first team all honors, and you broke more records. When you look back on your time at UAB, how do you feel about your overall career as a Blazer?
I would say I loved every second of it. Like, every second of my career, like, I don't regret anything. The ups, the downs. So especially the downs, because they made me grow as a person, not just as an athlete. They got me further down the line, like, you're going to fail in jobs and you're going to fail in everything that you do in life. So a lot of those failures taught me how to be successful in life. But mainly overall, like, my career, it was an awesome experience. Like I said, I got to be a part of a pretty awesome culture and a really awesome family. A lot of people took me in as their own. I would say one of the biggest things that I remember the most, like, about my career being at UAB are the little fans of the little kids. Yeah, so there, I can't not say this name in the podcast because it wouldn't be right, but little Mac Ford. She's not so little anymore. She's actually pretty old now, and I haven't seen her in a bit, but she was probably like, I don't know, 5, 6 years old, maybe at the time, maybe something like that when I first met her. She came in the dugout, and basically her and her mom and her grandma were like, she had number 2 on, and she said, "Oh, she wants to run out on the field with you today." And I said, "Yeah, that's fine. Come on over." And we chatted for a bit. And from that day, honestly, like, they took me in as their own as well. So I'd have dinner with them. Her grandma would invite me over for some dinner and just to kind of hang out. And then even after I graduated, like, I would come back to UAB and I would visit and I would go over to grandma's house and I would see Mac and I would see their family. So those are the things that I remember and take from my college career, more than any hit, more than any at bat, more than anything like that, just because those are the lifelong people that you meet, and knowing that you made a difference in young kids' lives and that you're their role model, like, that's honestly all you can ever ask for.
That's awesome. You were the first UAB player to ever be drafted by the National Pro Fast Pitch League. You were selected 9th overall in 2016 to the Dallas Charge. What was pro softball like?
So that whole experience was absolutely unreal. As a kid, in high school and middle school, like, I wrote down in my careers, what do you want to do when you're older? And I wrote down pro softball player. And when I was a freshman in college, we had vision boards that we would write down our goals. And it kind of was a dream at the time, like, it's my dream to play professional softball. And then as I got to my junior year, it started becoming a goal. So, like, that dream became a goal, and it started being, okay, this could be a reality now. Like, you just got to keep your head down again, go to work, and everything will turn out how it is. And being in Nashville, honestly, like, during the draft was one of the best experiences ever. I remember me, my dad, and some of my teammates and my coach, we were all there. And I just remember, when they were saying my name, I didn't even hear them say my name. Swore they were saying Haley McClinney's name because I heard Alabama. But yeah, to go on from that, like, that experience was awesome being drafted, but then going and playing with, like, the greats, like, nothing else that beats that. One of my teammates, Lauren Hager, she was somebody that I played in Gainesville, Florida when I was a freshman, and she's stud home run hitter, stud pitcher, and she was my teammate. So that was cool. But, like, a lot of the competition at the professional level is just like, it's unreal. Like, you're literally facing Monica Abbott, and then you're facing every single starting pitcher, or every single pitcher, even the backup pitchers in the NPF. were starting pitchers for like SEC teams. So it's like, yeah, you got Monica Abbott, but then her backup is a Tennessee starting pitcher. So it's like you never really get a break. You're playing the best of the best, which is honestly awesome because that's the only way to grow your game, and the only way to get better is to play the best. But no, a lot of my teammates were awesome. A lot of experiences that we had when we were playing in the professional level were amazing as well. I did have a career-ending injury, so that was a little bit rough. That's another takeaway from the professional league that I had, but it doesn't really take away from all the good things that happened. And yeah, so it was an awesome experience.
Softball players always seem to have a fun attitude on the diamond. I know you mentioned, when you had the injury versus Marshall, you were one of the loudest people in the dugout. Were you a superstitious player, and did your teammates have any fun quirks during games?
I would say I'm really not superstitious. I would say it was more trusting the routines. So like I did a lot of the same things, but not because I was necessarily superstitious. It was more so, okay, like this is my routine. This is what keeps me in the game. This is what I focus on. Because I know if I'm not doing that, then I'm probably thinking of the wrong things and not really focused on what I should be focused on. So I would say more so focused on routines. But to quirkiness type stuff that our teammates did, yeah, there was a lot of those things. I remember in the dugout, Kristen, Megan, Chandler, and I think Whitney, they would do some little thing. I don't even know what they did, but they would just like be like dancing kind of and like singing at the same time, but they always did before every game. It was the same thing every game. And then another thing I remember is like in between innings, like our team would run down to the end of the field, in the outfield, and they would do like some kind of a cool thing. It would be like bowling, and our teammates would pretend to be bowling pins and we would try to knock them over, or fishing and you try to catch a fish and one of the teammates is a fish. So those are a lot of the quirkiness things that I remember, but that kept the game fun, and honestly it kept us loose.
What were some of your favorite off-field memories from your time at UAB?
I'd say the off-field memories, the biggest thing that I take away from, like, obviously like hanging out with your teammates and your friends, and going out and doing stuff like that, like that's like there's nothing that's ever going to take that away. That's always a fun thing. But honestly, the community service events that we did, that was honestly one of the best things that we've ever done, and I'm so glad Coach Marla had us do that. Going to like children's hospitals, veterans hospitals. We even did like the Ronald McDonald House, where we would cook meals for like families. And a lot of those things are like giving back to the community, and they just make you feel so good knowing that you're helping somebody else. So I'd say those are some of the biggest things.
That's awesome. We've mentioned her a couple of times, but what was your relationship like with your former head coach, Marla Townsend?
So like I said, she was awesome. She made me feel like I was a part of a family. She took us all in, not even just me, like she took every single one of us in as her own kid. And she was like that parent figure, but she was also our coach who knew the boundaries and knew how to make sure that we were intimidated at all times, and knew how to make sure we knew, that we were doing the right thing. But yeah, the relationship that we had it was great. I still, like, to this day, feel like I can call her and ask her a question about something, if I'm like struggling. But yeah.
That's awesome. So you were elected to the New York State High School Softball Hall of Fame in 2020. What does that honor mean to you?
So honestly, it's a great feeling. I'm extremely blessed, extremely honored that my high school is also looking at me as a player who, went to work and put her head down and, never gave up. So it's definitely a huge honor to know that your high school's also looking at you like that. But I would say I couldn't have done it without Coach Marla, couldn't have done it without UAB, couldn't have done it without my parents, my family, my friends who pushed me along the way. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them for, always making me work hard and, never giving up.
Well, after pro softball, you got into coaching and you were an assistant coach at Canisius College. I know you said you've since moved on, but you're still staying close to the game. What are you up to these days?
So yeah, I coached at Canisius for 3 years. I did my master's. Canisius, it's a school in Buffalo, New York, where I'm from. So I got my master's for 2 years, was a grad assistant, and then went on to be a volunteer for a year. So I'm actually currently a manager at Amazon, where I work full time, and I was doing the coaching as well as the Amazon, and it got a little bit too hard. So I ended up deciding to walk away from the game. And of course, like it's too hard to walk away from the game again. So like you got to stay involved somehow. So I've been given lessons on the side, doing little things like that. But I do also have some ideas up my sleeve to try to get back to the game as well. I'm not really going to go into like too many details on it because I'm not really done with everything I'm trying to do, but just know that, I mean, you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, but I do have some ideas coming up my sleeve for some softball content. So,
All right. Well, how can my listeners engage with you now?
I would say social media. That's a big thing. I'm always on Instagram. You can reach out to me on Twitter as well. I'm not on Twitter as much as I am on Instagram, but I would say Instagram, Facebook, DM me. But yeah.
Okay. Well, I have one more lighthearted question for you to keep you on your toes.
Mhm.
So you get a choice. Okay. You could have one superpower for a year, or you can go on a dream vacation, all expenses paid. Which would you choose?
One superpower for a year or a dream vacation.
All
How
expenses
long is
paid.
the vacation?
It's a dream vacation as long as you want to, I guess.
Wow. Um, that's a hard question. Put me on the spot here. I gotta think about this. I would say probably a dream vacation. And I would
Where?
probably say Hawaii again.
Okay. All
Hawaii.
right.
Hawaii was a fun time. I got to actually go twice. I went for my first year playing softball, and then I went my first year coaching softball. So it was kind of cool that I got to do that. But I would like to go there for like an actual vacation and just kind of chill and be on the beach.
That's fun. That's awesome. Well, Caitlin, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for all you did as a Blazer. I know the Blazer faithful is very appreciative, and good luck to you in your future endeavors. I will definitely, if you share any of their content or whatever, I will definitely share it. But thank you so much for your time again.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate it.
All right, go Blazers.
Go Blazers.
All right. I want to thank Caitlin for sharing her time with me and also all that she did for UAB. Keep an eye out for her softball content. I will share it on my social pages whenever I see it. Thanks again for listening. I apologize for the lack of episodes recently. I've had an unlucky streak of guest cancellations and a busy personal life recently, but I will hopefully be getting you more episodes very soon with some of UAB's all time greats. In the meantime, check out my social pages at Dragons Den EFEL. Once again, that's the handle at Dragons Den EFEL on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for game day updates and more Blazer news. Until next time, good night and go Blazers.